Hello and welcome to Odds on Champions League Match Day 6. We are here to analyze the games we have on Wednesday, and we have great games: Borussia Dortmund, Barcelona, Juventus, Man City, and we have, of course, Alvaro Romeo. Hi, Alvaro. How are you?
Very well, Edu, thank you. It's a pleasure to be here. I mean, I'm really looking forward to this match day because there are a few things to be decided, a few teams that have to come out from the bottom of the table, a few others that they can consolidate pretty much their qualification for the next round. It's going to be pretty interesting, and some teams can really put it to bed before January.
And we have to check in this show, of course, the schedule and to check the standings and do some mathematics to see if they can qualify already for at least the playoff. So, guys, stay with us. Of course, press the like, subscribe. Let's go on now with the show. And we have two early kickoffs, as always, on Wednesday. First one at the Metropolitano. This one is very tough to find good bets, Alvaro, because it's Atlético de Madrid. Slovan Bratislava. Slovan Bratislava, the worst team in this Champions League, together with Young Boys and RB Leipzig. I would go even further and say that this team is the worst. So far, 18 goals conceded, and Atlético de Madrid, they are in the best moment of the season. We enjoyed a great game in La Liga against Sevilla, 4-3. Now they are even in the fight for La Liga, and they are scoring plenty of goals, Alvaro. We saw it even in the last game in the Champions League in Prague, so this could be a goal feast for Simeone's men.
Yeah, it could be, and the bookmakers expect that. So this game is difficult to bet because finding good odds will make you take risks that I don't know if they are worth it or not, Edu, because look at this. For example, over 3 goals, 145. A clean sheet for Atlético de Madrid, 153. Atlético de Madrid to win at 30 minutes, which is one of the best ones you can find, really, according to my taste at least. That pays 167. If we are optimistic and the odds change a little bit within the next hours, maybe that can go up to 175, but I don't see why, considering that Atletico scored 4 against Sevilla. But anyway, Atletico to win at 30 minutes maybe is my favorite. In the region of 170, why not? Just to put into context and perspective how favorite Atletico de Madrid is in reality, and according to the bookies as well. Atletico to win and over 2.5 goals in the game, 1.3. 1.3. But you know, Atletico is in a good moment. There is no denying that. They got their highest ever win away from home. They got their biggest win away in the Champions League in the previous match day when they won 6-0, as you said. They are the team with most balls recovered, something that I put it down to the fact that Atletico has more youth this year than last season, with the likes of Julián Álvarez, Conor Gallagher, Pablo Barrios. They are stronger when it comes to going to the pressing. I think that the individual market is not something that should appeal you because Diego Simeone, if the game is decided early or quick or by the 60th minute, may introduce new players onto the pitch, and the likes of Griezmann or Julián, who are always likely of scoring a goal, may have only a 60 minutes appearance. So, you know, all this considered, I will go for Atletico to win at 30 minutes, 167. But of course, there is an element of risk in there because Atletico de Madrid, yes, in November, they've been hammering many opponents. But on the other hand, it's not in their nature to kill you very quickly, as it is in Bayern's nature or maybe in Barcelona's nature. I don't know. When it comes to Slovan Bratislava, you know, they've been really poor in the Champions League. The numbers are there for everyone to see. Minus 14 is the goal difference they've got, 18 goals conceded. They've been as bad as Young Boys, and Young Boys have been really bad. And I know that they take the positives from the previous game they played in the Champions League because they only lost 3-2 against Milan. In the UEFA website, the captain 𝗀𝗲𝗀𝗀𝗀 spoke about that being their best game in the Champions League so far, and yet they lost it. So this is the reality right now. Slovan Bratislava playing at the Metropolitano. I really don't think that they will lay a glove, personally. So I'm going to go for Atletico to win at 30 minutes.
There are better odds somewhere, of course, and Atletico really favorites. They have 9 points, so with a win, they will be at least in the playoff. Next game, also early kickoff, is Lille. Sturm Graz. Lille also doing a great season. They are fourth in France. They beat Brest in Liga at the weekend, and also they are doing great in the Champions League with 10 points. They are unbeaten in the last 14 games. Now they are hosting Sturm Graz, a team with 3 points thanks to the win against Girona, Alvaro. But be careful because they haven't been thrashed in this Champions League. They've been competitive. It's another story from Slovan Bratislava, even against Dortmund, against Bruges. They lost by really short margins.
Yes, they did. I mean, you look at the scores, for example, they beat Girona 1-0, which is okay, I would say. Let's not forget the mistake of Ivan Martin. Anyway, he could have scored the equalizer very easily, but anyway, he didn't. They lost only 1-0 to Borussia Dortmund. That should make us think that this is a team that stays competitive in the games, that's for sure. Also, for example, they lost 2-0 to Sporting Club Portugal when Sporting Club Portugal was still coached by Rubén Amorim. And, I agree. Sturm Graz, they are not particularly disastrous, not at all. Only 6 goals conceded, having played difficult opposition. They kept Girona scoreless, which, again, if Ivan Martin had only touched the ball a little bit, he would have scored, but he didn't. But still, it's, I wouldn't say impressive, but at least there is a competitive edge in the Austrian leader right now, because Sturm Graz is set to win the Austrian Bundesliga if they manage to keep the distance they've got with Austria Vienna. So yeah, they are doing well, generally speaking. Domestically in the Champions League is a different story, and they are playing against the Lille side that I have to say that I like so far. I like them to the point that I'm gonna back them with an Asian handicap -1 here. Why do I say this? Not only because they are fourth in the league, but also because Lille seems to have a formula lately. If you check their previous results, they beat at Bologna, yes, in November in the Champions League. Then they started December in good fashion again, winning 3-1. They didn't lose to Montpellier in a game that was crazy because there were send-offs and all that, and they stayed in the game away from home. They beat Rennes. They drew with Nice. So, good results along the way. They didn't lose to Juve, and I think that this is the chance for Lille to get something. So I'm going to go for an Asian handicap -1 for Lille, which pays literally, exactly, at least the last time I checked, as Jonathan David scoring a goal. And Jonathan David is a footballer who is scoring this season as well. I think that he's going to break his personal record in all competitions in one season because he's already in double figures. Jonathan David to score 191 is an individual market that I would like to look at. Only thing that I keep in mind is that the Sturm Graz don't concede many. So I'm playing between those two parameters, so therefore I would prefer maybe to go for an Asian handicap -1 for Lille. If they win by 1 goal, you get your stake back, fine, whatever, that's a pass, no harm. But if they win by 2 goals, which I think that they can at home, you get 191. It's good money.
Well, they beat Real Madrid, remember, at home, and you mentioned Rubén Amorim, as we know, changed Sporting Lisbon to Man United. Also, Sturm Graz lost the manager, Christian Ilzer. He left some weeks ago from Graz to Hoffenheim. Yeah. You are always very skeptical or even criticizing this manager changing in the middle of the season. We will talk about Sporting in the other video, but also happened to Sturm Graz. It's important to take this in consideration. Alvaro, next game, Milan, Red Star, with Milan right now with 9 points. It's kind of a hit and miss, this team, as we see, or we saw even at the weekend again in Bergamo, losing to Atalanta in the Champions League, beating Slovan Bratislava, Real Madrid and Bruges. They are comfortable and they will qualify for the next round if they beat Red Star. And Red Star, Alvaro, they surprised us with this heavy win to Stuttgart, 5-1. It was really unexpected. But we've seen that they were not competitive apart from that game against the German team.
Yes, I know. it's difficult to trust in Red Star Belgrade because away from home they get pretty much nothing. At home, they are not particularly fruitful either, but at least they can put a fight every now and then. I think that they have decent scorers as well. But, I'm going to go all AC Milan. They are hit and miss, as you said. They lost this Friday against Atalanta, who eventually got to the top of the Italian Serie A. But Milan, they have a good chance to qualify for the next round, and they didn't start the Champions League in good fashion. Remember that at the end of the day, they lost to Liverpool in the first game, but now they are 16th with 9 points. Some say that 9 points will be enough to qualify for the next round, but I don't know who did those maths, really, which computer did it. I think Milan, with 12 points, however, they're going to qualify, and I can back them. I know that this season they've been hit and miss, but on the other hand, some players are racing. For example, Reinders being one of them, not the European commissioner from the European Union, but the Dutch midfielder who is phenomenal, by the way, and he has scored some beautiful goals this season already. Against Real Madrid, he was very impositive, he imposed his style. I think Pulisic is having a good season, and I can back Milan here with an Asian handicap minus 1.5. I think that I'm going to stay there. If Milan wins by 2 goals, you win. If they win by 1 goal, obviously you won't. But I think that they can beat Red Star Belgrade by 2 goals. Let's not forget that Milan is not a scoring spree team anyway. But I think that they can win by 2 goals here. By leaving a clean sheet maybe, or maybe by winning 3-1. I don't know how. But the 2-goal margin makes sense to me at San Siro. Asian handicap minus 1.5 for Milan, 180. Otherwise, the individual market, look, if there is a player who needs to score, is Alvaro Morata, who is lately finally scoring a little bit more than at the start of the season. I know that you don't like Morata a lot, but Morata to score pays 2.0, and maybe this is his chance just to start improving his stats a little bit, because his start at Milan, or his, the start of his career in the club hasn't been great, but neither Tammy Abrahams, none of them are scoring many goals. I think that Morata finally will end up being the important striker at Milan. So Morata to score 2.0, the money is not bad either.
Very difficult to read this Milan with Fonseca, but their best game of the season was in the Champions League against Real Madrid, and also in the derby against Inter in Serie A. But of course, they should beat Red Star. Next game is Benfica Bologna. Here we have Benfica as big favorites, 1.6, because Bologna, they are doing really bad in the Champions League. Only 1 point in the draw with Shakhtar, only 1 goal scored. They are struggling this season. Even they drew against Juventus at the weekend when they were leading 2-0 away from home. They've not been competitive, whereas Benfica, Alvaro, with 9 points, they are ready to qualify for the next round. Even they are closing the gap with Sporting Lisbon in the Portuguese league. Is 5 wins in all competitions, and it was impressive also, the winning Monaco in the last Champions League game.
Well, Benfica, little by little, and improving. I mean, they haven't played for a little while now. They haven't hammered anyone for a little while now, because lately their results were as follows. They beat Arouca 2-0 and then Vitoria 1-0 only. But they are winning, and this is the most important thing. They beat Monaco in the previous match day. They beat Porto in November. They only lost 1-0 to Bayern, and I believe that they could have done even slightly better, and they could have gotten something more from the Bayern Arena. So it's a good moment for Benfica, not so much for Bologna. Bologna are really struggling this season in many aspects. I think that their attacking patterns are a little bit rigid. I believe that they are missing a lot the departed players plus the departed manager. They haven't done a very big investment, and I think that eventually that was going to cost them, and is costing them. At the end of the day, their scoring numbers in the Champions League are really poor. I mean, they have scored only 1 goal in the Champions League, and you cannot travel to Estadio da Luz having such a little threat at front. It doesn't work. It doesn't work. And I think that Benfica is on a rise right now. I don't know if they'll be as good as Sporting Club de Portugal in the long run, because in the previous season they weren't, but I do believe that they can be a contender, again, to be crowned not on Portuguese champions, yes, and contenders to qualify for the next round and to be a difficult opponent in some potential playoffs. At the end of the day, Benfica beat Atlético de Madrid 4-0. We shouldn't forget that, and a player like 𝗵𝗵𝗏 is still running the show a little bit. He provided 2 assists in the previous Champions League game. So I'm going to go for Benfica to win 160. And, if you go for an Asian handicap -1 for Benfica, which maybe you shouldn't because Bologna defensively is not a disaster, well, that pays 2.0. But I'm more than happy to stay in the middle. And what is the middle exactly? Asian handicap -0.75 for Benfica. That pays Edu 170, and the money is not bad. I think that there is a chance that Benfica wins this game with a 13-ish. And if Benfica wins by 1 goal, you will get half a win. And if they win by 2 goals, you get a win.
Well, Benfica with some old players, but they were able, for instance, to hammer Atlético de Madrid at home 4-0 and then to lose 3-1 with Feyenoord. So again, different performances also in this Champions League, but it's a team that will be in the playoffs at least. And one of the best games of the Wednesday is Dortmund Barcelona. Here I must say, Alvaro, that I love the odds for Dortmund. They are the underdog for this game, 3.2, a team that has won absolutely everything at home this season, apart from the draw against Bayern Munich in the Bundesliga. Away from home is another story, but also they are doing a great Champions League with 12 points, the same points as Barcelona, with Hansi Flick going back to Germany, with Lewandowski going back to Dortmund. But this Barcelona, Alvaro, they are struggling lately in La Liga. They are a bit shaky. They are conceding a lot of goals. Even in the offensive area, they are getting a bit worse. But still, they are super favorites for this great game in the Signal Iduna Park.
I think that they should be considered the slightly favorites. I would disagree maybe with the quantities, with the amount that the odds provide to us. I think that Barcelona is the favorite, slightly, but not that favorite. All that said, Dortmund's home record is very impressive. You just mentioned it. They just haven't lost at home since April against Stuttgart, and remember that the Stuttgart last season was a terrific side. No wonder why. They are playing Champions League football this season. And look at the previous results at home. I mean, they beat Freiburg 4-0. They beat Leipzig 2-1. They won the last Champions League game 1-0. Sturm Graz, that wasn't impressive. But what about the win against Celtic 7-1? There is a common denominator to all those games, though. There have been goals. The last time Dortmund was scoreless at home was against Stuttgart in April, but ever since they scored at home, always. And when it comes to Barcelona, they are scoring a lot of goals as well. Barcelona, look at their numbers, 18 goals scored in the Champions League. Both sides, Dortmund and Barcelona, are the highest scoring sides of the tournament, 34 goals in total. So that's why I thought initially about the goals market, because I think that the goals will happen, and over 3 goals is something that you should look at. It pays 168, and I think the money is about right. I could take those odds, seriously. When it comes to the full-time result, I have a little bit of a soft spot for this Hansi Flick's Barcelona, because I think that November hasn't been good, and Hansi Flick referred to November as shit November. But I think that Barcelona's issues are fixable. They are related to intensity, they are related to focus, to attention. It's nothing structural. I think that the offside line is working well. Some people call it suicidal, but I think that it will be suicidal to defend deep in their own box with Íñigo Martínez and 𝗵𝗏𝗏 and 𝗏𝐴, the defensive triangle, because none of them are very tall. Íñigo Martínez is the tallest defender of Barcelona, I think, and he's only 183. That would be suicidal too. And then Barcelona has a big dependence on Lamine Yamal. And I think that the biggest problem with Barcelona is that anytime they do substitutions, especially up front, the ones who are coming in, Ferran Torres or maybe Ansu Fati, don't work very well. Ferran, yes, he's scoring every now and then, but the comparison with Lewandowski is not good for Ferran. Ferran is very sloppy in the ball controls. He's very sloppy when it comes to shooting. He's a player that needs to have everything in his favor to score. I think Ferran is like that. So if Hansi Flick keeps the best players on the pitch for 90 minutes, and I think that in this game Barcelona will have to do that, then they will stay competitive. So I could back Barcelona with an Asian handicap minus 0.25, a little bit contradicting your opinion that the odds are very good for Dortmund, and maybe you are hinting that we should back them somehow. But yeah, I think that the goals market is my favorite thing here, 168. And why not to back Lewandowski? Because he will be eager to play at Signal Iduna Park once again, because he played for Dortmund. We forget about that, but 10 years ago he was their best striker. And because Robert Lewandowski is the top scorer in the Champions League with 7 goals, and he broke the 100 Champions League goal threshold in match day 5. So when Lewandowski to score 2.1 and continue with his run would be something that I would recommend as well.
I want to point and highlight Asian handicap 0 for Dortmund is 2.46. The odds are great for a team that has not lost at home this season, remember. But of course, let me know in the comments if you agree with Alvaro backing Barcelona, or you see value on backing Borussia Dortmund at home. Let's see also if this Barcelona squad is as good as we thought it was in the first 2 months of competition, or is too short. Only in the next months we will see if this is only a bump in the road, or Flick can save this team to some title this season.
Very quickly, Edu, I go for the most goals market mainly in the previous game. I have to say that if I had to back somebody full time, I will go Barcelona with a slight handicap. But I prefer the goals market 100%, definitely. I think that over 3 goals is a very good one, 170, and I recommend people to go for it. I really think that this is going to happen.
All right, let's see if you see goals in the Arsenal Monaco, because Arsenal, they are quite reliable in the Champions League when they are playing at home. They won both games against PSG and Shakhtar Donetsk. They are suffering in the Premier League, as we saw in 𝗀𝗏𝗏𝗀 at the weekend. But again, in Europe, and especially when they play at home, they are reliable. Monaco doing a great Champions League despite the defeat against Benfica with 10 points. They will be for sure in the playoffs, and were able, Alvaro, at the weekend to bounce back after the defeat in the derby against Olympique Marseille to beat Toulouse. You see also goals here, or not sure, because Arsenal, as they joke a lot in England, they cannot score in open play. It's only set pieces, and our friend Tom is always backing the central defenders to score from a header or from a corner kick.
Well, I was checking that. Arsenal has some sort of a revolutionary set-piece coach called Nicolas Jover, and his work is paying a lot of dividends for Arsenal. That's for sure. So Gabriel Magalhães to score. Normally Gabriel Magalhães is the best footballer of Arsenal when it comes to set pieces and scoring from set pieces. Him to score, the Brazilian footballer, pays 7.0. But it has to be said, Gabriel Magalhães is a doubt for this game. A doubt. We don't know whether he will feature or not. Arsenal has a lot of absences in defense because Calafiori, Zinchenko, Tomiyasu, White have different degrees of injuries, and this makes Arsenal a lesser Arsenal. All that said, in the previous game, Arsenal beat Sporting 5-1. In the Champions League, Arsenal are staying competitive. I think that they have proven to be a very good side, and maybe this season they can do that extra step, because let's don't forget that last season it looked like Arsenal could be a potential semi-finalist, and then they didn't get quite there. All that said, I think that they are favorite here, and I don't want to take anything away from Monaco. Monaco is not only about the win they got against Barcelona when Barcelona got reduced to 10 men. Monaco has been really good in the Champions League. And despite the defeat against Benfica, in which I think that there were some positives as well, Monaco are still in a comfortable position in the tournament. And I do believe they are in fact qualified among the first 8. And I do believe that Monaco are going to be in the playoffs because they've got a very intense style. They are second in balls recovered in the tournament. They have committed a big amount of faults. I mean, an average of 15 per game, which tells you that as soon as they lose the ball, they don't let you play. And Arsenal may find that a little bit disturbing, but Arsenal can also be cynical, and Arsenal can also beat you in set pieces, as they have proven repeatedly over the last 18 months. So I think that I'm going to go all Arsenal here, all due respect to Monaco, because I like what they are doing, but maybe Arsenal at home can be a little bit too much for Monaco. So I'm going to go for Arsenal to win the first half, 175. Let's don't forget that Arsenal, when they have a good day, and at the Emirates especially, they tend to wrap it up very quickly.
Indeed, very difficult to beat them in the Champions League when they play at home. Next game is Feyenoord, Sparta Prague. Of course, Feyenoord super favorites, 1.4, but they lost both home games in this Champions League against 𝗵𝗵𝗻 Salzburg. They've been way better away. One of the biggest surprises of the whole Champions League, I would say, was the 3-0 against Man City after losing 3-0. Yeah. And the problem, Alvaro, is that Sparta Prague, they are so poor. We saw it especially against Atlético Madrid and Brest, 4 points for the Czech team, but they are nowhere near being competitive in Europe, even against Feyenoord, which is not European royalty.
Yeah, they just beat Salzburg 3-0. That was impressive, and they were winning 3-0 by the 58th minute. So, but that was already in September, long time ago. I will add to the list of defeats that you have mentioned, Edu, that the defeat against against Manchester City, 5-0, that was at the Etihad. In October, it feels like a totally different era. I mean, Manchester City right now is struggling to win comfortably, if not to win any game. But anyway, Sparta Prague, yes, they have been what expected really in the Champions League. They've got 4 points. The goal difference is concerning. It's a -9. And with this goal difference, they will find it very difficult to qualify for the playoffs, but I really think that they won't be in the playoffs anyway. And when it comes to their opponent, Feyenoord, you know, they haven't been great in the Champions League either, but what they got against Manchester City the other day was very, very impressive, I would say. Losing, trailing 3-0, and having the instinct, I would say, to understand that if they scored 1 goal against Manchester City, they would cause havoc. It's something that has to be praised as well. Feyenoord has 7 points right now in the Champions League, and I think that this is a chance for them to win a game. I really think so. And at home, I think that they will take it. It's true that they started the Champions League badly, losing against Bayer Leverkusen, 4-0 at home. But then they corrected the situation very quickly by beating Girona in Montilivi. They beat Benfica away from home as well. So a mixed bag of results, that's for sure. But a team that has beaten Benfica, a team that has beaten in the second round Girona, has enough to beat Sparta Prague. And I think that they are going to score quickly. I'm going to go for Feyenoord to win the first half, 191, because otherwise it's difficult to find a good value in this game. So yeah, that will be my bet.
It's funny because Feyenoord, in one of the greatest stadiums in Europe, like the 𝗵𝗏, they should be stronger at home and difficult to beat with these powerful Dutch supporters, but they lost both games. Let's see if they are able to win their first home game in the Champions League. Next game is one of the most interesting ones. Juve, Man City, both teams with 8 points, and both teams heavily criticized. Thiago Motta is under fire in Juventus with another disappointing draw against Bologna. He was even sent off after hitting the referee with the ball. Is 4 consecutive draws for Juventus. His numbers are far from Allegri's numbers, even last year, but in the Champions League, they are doing all right, apart from the defeat against Stuttgart. With Man City, Alvaro, you have to tell me what is going on. They couldn't even beat Crystal Palace again at the weekend. It's only 1 win in the last 9 games. They have the Manchester derby. They have Aston Villa next, and Guardiola looks very nervous.
He looks very nervous. The other day, he was complaining about the send-off of Rico Lewis. I think he disagreed with that very much. But Manchester City didn't do the job against Crystal Palace. I mean, in the last 6 or 7 years, under Guardiola's tenure, Crystal Palace has inflicted a few very remarkable wins, defeats, to Manchester City. So that has to be said as well. But this defeat is in the context of the season. And in this season, Manchester City has been okay until November. I don't know what happened in November exactly, but the team collapsed very badly. I think that Manchester City, or I thought that Manchester City wasn't very good over the last 3 months. I really thought so. I thought that the ball circulation was slow. I thought that the dependence on Haaland was getting too dangerous, but I wasn't expecting Manchester City to collapse like this. I thought that Manchester City was going to maybe decrease the level gradually, maybe insignificantly, to the point that they will hide their weaknesses and keep on winning games by small margins, but it hasn't been the case. And Manchester City's run is terrible, absolutely terrible. And I have to say that we also have to criticize the board for having rebuilt the team this way. I mean, Pep Guardiola is using a footballer like Mateus Nunes this day as one of the main assets of the team. Rico Lewis is still a young footballer who was very important 2 seasons ago, but it's a lot of work in progress there. And I think Manchester City hasn't been able to replace the old guard that gave so much success to Manchester City. The likes of Gundogan, Kevin De Bruyne, to a lesser extent Bernardo, they're getting a little bit older. And these footballers gave a lot of glory to Manchester City, Kyle Walker as well, and they haven't been replaced properly. And the likes of Doku, the likes of Savinho, the likes of Grealish, those ones who came to replace Gabriel Jesus, Sterling, Sané, are not good scorers. Therefore, Manchester City relies a lot on Erling Haaland to score the goals. And it doesn't look good that if you go to the Premier League scoring charts, the top scorer of the Premier League is, unsurprisingly, Erling Haaland. But then you have to go to the 40th best scorer of the league to find the next Manchester City's scorer. That at least happened on Saturday. Probably that 40th is even lower now, 𝗷𝗵𝗏𝗂𝐿 being the number 40. That is not sustainable. You cannot depend so much on a footballer. Goals must come from different sources, and you have to move the ball quicker. So Manchester City right now needs a reinvention in the middle of the season. For you to reinvent yourself, needs some training time, and I don't think that Pep Guardiola is going to have any training time in December. So let's see how it goes against Juventus. And really, I think Manchester City is the favorite still, because Juventus, as you said, they are recording draw after draw after draw. It's not only 4 draws in a row. It is that they got an amount of 7 draws in the last 10 games, which is absolutely crazy. Sorry, 7 draws in the last 9 games. That rhythm is not good. Maybe in the Champions League they are hiding it somehow because they are still, okay. Against Aston Villa they should have lost if it wasn't for a Spanish referee that cancelled that goal scored by Morgan Rogers, I believe. But Juventus can stay more or less competitive. Defensively they are fine, no more than fine. But I think Manchester City here may get something. So I'm going to go for an Asian handicap minus 0.25 for Manchester City, because I am totally incapable of supporting Manchester City at this stage. I cannot do it. So I'm going to do it with a negative handicap, and I'm going to, limit my losses. Otherwise, there is something that happens with Manchester City, irrespective of the results. Haaland tends to score 5 goals in the Champions League, top scorer of the Premier League. Haaland to score 2.2, I can take it. But that doesn't mean that Manchester City is going to win it, because whatever Haaland does and Manchester City does goes in different channels completely. That's the thing with Manchester City. Haaland has been performing according to what he thinks performing is, but Manchester City hasn't.
Incredible what is going on with Man City. I guess we expected this from Juventus, struggling even with Thiago Motta, but no one saw Man City performing like they are in this November and now December. And the last game, a little bit unappealing, is Stuttgart. Young boys, it should be a must win for Stuttgart, only 4 points. So if they win here, they would have a chance still to qualify, despite the heavy defeat in Belgrade against Red Star. Is a team that is suffering since Undav got injured in the Bundesliga. They won, coming back from a 2-0 against Union Berlin, and they have next Alvaro, Slovan Bratislava and PSG. So I guess they will target beating Young Boys, the worst team in this Champions League, beating Slovan Bratislava, and they could qualify with 10 points to the next round. The odds for backing Stuttgart is only 1.4, though.
Yeah, no, I know, but that's why I'm gonna handicap them with an Asian handicap minus 1.25 for Stuttgart. I think it makes sense. So basically, for those who are not erudite on the handicaps, it's very easy. If Stuttgart wins by 2 goals, you get a win, and if they win by 1, you only suffer half a lose, which, I think that is not too bad. Stuttgart, little by little, just little by little, they are climbing in the table in the Bundesliga. This weekend they climbed 1 spot, but, the season hasn't been great for them. It has to be said that losing footballers is never easy. They are still scoring a decent amount of goals because they are a Bundesliga side, and normally Bundesliga sides score a lot of goals. They score an average of 2 goals per game in the Bundesliga, exactly 2 goals per game, but they concede a lot. They have conceded 23. And when it comes to the Champions League, it's incredible how their scoring numbers dim so much because they have scored only 4. But I still believe that they are going to win this game because they are playing at home, because they are better than Young Boys, and because they will set their eyes in this game because they know that the calendar at the end is going to be difficult with the game against PSG. But before that, gives an opportunity to record 10 points with 2 straight wins and maybe qualify in the playoffs and pray to be slightly stronger by February. Let's don't forget that the Bundesliga sides have a winter break, and that should make them stronger coming ahead into February. And then they are playing against Young Boys. I mean, the numbers of Young Boys are appalling, really. They have scored only 2 goals, conceded 17. Inevitably, they have 0 points, and they have been really poor this season. So I think that Stuttgart has to be backed here, and I think that they can win by 2 goals. That's why I'm going for an Asian handicap minus 1.25 for the German side.
This is it for Wednesday games in the Champions League. There will be 2 more games, 2 more match days before this strange, I would say, group stages that I'm not enjoying. I prefer the old one, I must admit. Finds the end, but we will see what happened. Remember, guys, of course, that you can make your own tips in Oddspedia, and we have our monthly and yearly tipster competitions, and of course now Alvaro Rivals, where you can create your own competition and challenge your friends. I'm sure, Alvaro, you will beat your friends with your tipsters and
easily
with your tips. And of course, remember that you were correct also in some ACCAs in the last European week. So let's try your safe bet first.
Yeah, I think that I got my ACCA right in La Liga last weekend too, with Atletico's 4-3 win, just cancelling that handicap. But yeah, the rest of the results were right. Anyway, my safe bet, Dortmund Barcelona over 2.5 goals, 145.
Indeed, you got your ACCA correct, taking out Atlético de Madrid. I'm just checking. And tell me your ACCA.
The more I look at it, the more I like it. Asian handicap minus 1.5 for Milan. Dortmund Barcelona over 2.5 goals. Benfica to win. Altogether 4.18.
Oh, great odds, of course. Thank you, Alvaro. Thanks, everyone, for watching. See you soon. Bye-bye.
Bye.